Recording in progress.
Morning, honorable members. Morning, everybody on the platform.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning, Chair,
Chairperson.
and to the rest of our
Morning, Chairperson.
else.
Secretary, are we ready to start?
Yes, Chairperson, we can start the meeting. We have 5 members now in the platform, so we can start the meeting.
Is the minister in?
No, not yet, Chair. We only have the CFO, DDG, Ngongo, Dumalisile, Litolonyane. Not the minister. The minister has tendered an apology and the DM as well, Chair.
Okay.
I'm also in the meeting, Chair.
So minister and the minister are not coming.
The DG is here.
DDG are as well, Chair.
Chairperson, the DG is online, Chair.
Yes, I see the DG is online. Let's continue with our meeting. I want to welcome everybody to this meeting. Let's have the agenda lighted, Secretary. Opening and welcoming. Apologies. Consideration of the agenda. Remarks. Briefing by the department. And deliberations. If honorable members are happy with the agenda, can I get a motion?
Morning, Chair.
Or maybe before that, Honorable Poole moving. Can I get a seconder? Can I get a seconder?
I second, Chair. I second, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Stolle. Maybe in future, Secretary, let's have the adoption as second item, so that when we move forward, we know that we have adopted the agenda. Apologies, Secretary. Secretary, apologies.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to everybody in the platform. Chairperson, I received an apology from the minister. She's attending a cabinet committee meeting, and the deputy minister is accompanying the president to Free State IMC. Member Titebe is in an international visit to Lesotho. He might join. And I can see that Mr. Sithole has joined already. He is also in an oversight visit to the Portfolio Committee on Communication. Mayor Makagula was going to join as well, but she was still in hospital. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Those are the apologies. I guess we accept them, unless if there is an opposition to the apologies. If none, it means members are accepting the apologies. Honorable members, I hope today we will not experience problems that we experienced last week with regard to connectivity. We want to wish Honorable Makagula a speedy recovery. as we got a report that she's still hospitalized. We hope she'll recover to be able to carry on with the duties of Parliament. We experienced heavy rains, which led to flooding in many parts of the country. I think in Northwest, it was devastating. In KZN, also they experienced serious flooding. And in all other provinces, it might be minor. But our observation is that in Northwest and KZN, it has been devastating. We hope the department will be on top of the situation and will get a briefing from the department as to how do they deal with the matters. Time allowing, will be, as a committee, we'll also at some stage have to visit these areas to see for ourselves the devastation experienced by our people. The chairperson of the portfolio committee was invited to the international conference on construction, but the chairperson extended the invitation to all members of the committee. The conference will be held here in Cape Town, and the secretary will communicate with members to indicate their availability to that. We will get more information as we move on. I guess the conference is around April, the 8th and 9th. And if we are available, let's indicate to the secretary. We are talking to the office of the minister regarding outstanding matters that must be reported back to the portfolio committee. We gave the minister some of these matters on that Friday when we met for the first time with the minister. It was meet and greet, but we gave the minister these matters. The office of the secretary of the portfolio committee is communicating with the office of the minister to arrange a date where we can receive this report, preferably around April. I know the minister is not here, but DG, at some stage you will expect a report. The president once said in one of his sonars that this government is building smart cities. We would want to, as a portfolio committee, get a progress report on how far are we with the building of smart cities. I get it through grapevines that there's a planned smart city in Gauteng, a planned smart city in Northwest, but we'll get an official report from the department. If the DG can take this message to the minister so that we are brought on board regarding these things. We see in Johannesburg that the municipality is trying by all means to reclaim hijacked buildings. I guess because those buildings are for accommodation, possibly they are doing it in collaboration with the provincial and national departments of human settlements. We'll also need a report so that we are able to engage with our constituencies, especially those whose constituencies are in Gauteng, in particular Johannesburg City, so that they are able to engage with them and assist wherever they can assist. Having said that, honorable members, let's continue with the meeting. If we're businesslike, we must be out of this meeting by 12 midday. Thanks very much. We move to item 5, briefing by the department. In the absence of the minister and the deputy minister, I'll then give it to the DG to lead us. DG, good morning.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to the members of the Portfolio Committee, to the colleagues in our ministry, as well as in the department and in Parliament. Chairperson, thank you for your opening remarks. We have taken note of the reminder that we have to come back to Parliament to report on the matters Parliament had raised as matters having survived from the 6th administration into the 7th and into 7th Parliament. To that extent, we must confirm that we are hard at work putting together those reports, verifying the data and the information so required. And we would package it for readiness by our minister so that indeed we're in time when the Portfolio Committee does allocate a slot as the Chairperson's guide around April, that we are ready to actually present on all of the matters the committee requires of us to have briefed it in this regard and to have resolved and dealt with those matters. Secondly, we have also taken note of your injunction that we need to attend to the matters relative to the disasters that have visited a few of our provinces. And in this regard, to also indicate that indeed we have teams already on the ground and we would be responsive to the needs of those qualifying beneficiaries to assist them in as far as our disaster emergency housing response is concerned. Chairperson, the other key issue for us is that, yes, we have heard that you want us to report on the smart cities. We will do so, Honorable Chair, and we will do so in a view of ensuring that we give a bigger picture, even broader than what the Chair points out to, the plans for smart cities. Kosi, please mute. We would, in essence, Honorable Chair, give the full briefing in this regard and give the totality of the picture as we know it, those that are in the pipeline and those that are already receiving some degree of support and those that are at an advanced stage and which are already in our fold as human settlements. We will give that bigger picture. Chair, I've also had your directive that by 12 we be done. I think today we would be much more swifter because the presentation, we believe, speaks for itself. And on our part, between me and the CFO, we think we only need about 15 minutes to have finished the entire presentation. It's pretty straightforward with no issues at all. And so we'll go into it right away. And we wish to reiterate the apologies of both our minister as well as our deputy minister, who because of cabinet and government engagements are not able to be present. But we are here, Chair, to deliver the message on behalf of the minister. We wish to also confirm that the minister has approved the presentation and we had made a presentation to her relative to this, and also to just point to the few areas as we do present where the minister has given us further directives and guidance on how to move in addressing the deficiencies we have seen. If we move to the next slide, Honorable Chairperson, we will note that this is the third quarter presentation. And in terms of the third quarter presentation, we are looking at October to December last year, and we're looking at what we have been able to do relative to the targets as set in the annual performance plan. And we are cognizant that the third quarter is one of the important quarters for us, because after we do the finalization and rounding of what would have been the performance, we immediately get into the fourth quarter, which relatively is very short. Because of two reasons. First and foremost, it follows a long break of December, and it actually we get to work and start in earnest in January, mid-January, and that gives us like half the month. And then the second key consideration is that in March, the government systems get to be locked and closed around the 15th of December, of March, I'm sorry. And that gives us another half. So in essence, we have a period of 2 months is a shorter quarter to round off every other thing. And so the third quarter is always...
Honorable Chair.
Honorable Stole.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greeting to you and the members. I'm trying to check. I don't know, is my phone now? The presenter is breaking, and another thing that the presentation is not moving.
Okay, DG, the presentation is not moving.
I'll ask my colleagues to actually move it. Who have looked at the presentation. Perhaps we could have been.
Okay.
But as I was indicating, I'm not sure, Chair, if it's only Honorable Sithole who can't hear me properly that I'm breaking on his side, or does it affect other members? Because if it does, it may mean that the positioning I'm at is not proper, and I may have to. But this is the same position I use each time with the protocol committees virtual, and I trust this post. So if it is failing me, I might have to find a new area.
Honorable members, are you fine?
We are fine, Chair, and good morning.
Can hear clearly, Chair.
Honorable Abada. Honorable Abada, I see your hand.
I just wanted to say that it's fine on my side, Chair. I can hear clearly.
Okay, I can also hear the DG clearly. I think it's Honorable Stole who's having a problem with the connectivity. Get a better spot, Honorable Stole. Continue, DG.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can we move to the next slide, Kosi? And next one. I'll pass all these slides, Chair, because as you know, the template is what has been agreed to between the leader of government, business, and Parliament. And each time we come here, we have to put up these slides, but these slides are quite familiar with the committee. So I will not waste time on them. I'll just pass through and go straight to the performance of the quarter. If we move to the next one, Kosi, and the next one. There. Chairperson, in this quarter, we had 28 planned targets, which we have achieved all of the 28 planned targets, and we did the verification of the information and did a secondary run on them. We also asked our internal audit to actually audit the performance and the portfolios of evidence just to check that indeed when the AG does come to audit, we would be of the same view that indeed all the 28 targets have been achieved. We can move to the next slide. That's a representation by programs. Chair, how many targets were in each program, and as you may see, all of them program by program, as has already been indicated, has been achieved. And this quarter, we have not carried any target remaining behind. But you would see from this slide that the departmental performance has improved. In the previous quarter, which was quarter two, Chair, we did commit that we had ramped up our performance and that you would see it in the third quarter having significantly improved from where we were. We were also not bad. Our concern, if you remember, the committee was a bit concerned in quarter one that we didn't reach the threshold of 90%, but we did highlight what were the difficulties, and we also pointed out to some of the interventions we're putting in place, including carrying the targets that we didn't fulfill in quarter one and quarter two, and which we carried to quarter three. And as you can see, in quarter three, we managed to achieve that. We are keeping our monitoring tabs on the few remaining targets that were targeted for quarter four, which is the one we are in, because in Q4, by the time you see it, we'll also be presenting cumulative annual financial performance and annual performance of targets. And it will be a cumulative thing and ultimately an annual thing, and there will be no other space to carry anything forward. So it is this quarter, as I've been indicating, that is now very critical for us to ensure that we finish with 100% achievement of targets. We no longer have much time, but we have been keeping a track of it on a monthly basis in terms of our performance. In Program 1, Chair, I will just give some of the quick highlights. Typically, what we do when we present to you in Q1, Q2, we didn't speak about the achievement. We only spoke about the areas we had not achieved and what we were doing to achieve them. But this time around, there aren't any areas we have not achieved in the APP, and therefore we'll just give some of the key highlights of what we have achieved. We are still within the payment of invoices within 30 days, as is required now by the regulations, and we have kept to that. We keep this very close, and our system is holding firm in ensuring that this becomes a reality and that we do not drop any invoices backwards, and we have nothing remaining in the trail. We are also looking, Chairperson, at the issue of signing off on the grants settlements, the human settlement grant frameworks. We have been finalizing with the Treasury. We think we would be able to still achieve this despite the lateness of the hour. Why? Because we only got the response from the Treasury yesterday on what we had been inquiring relative to this, but we think we are now in pole position to be able to finalize on the grant frameworks and to have both the provinces and metros also get them in time to achieve the target. On the next program, which is our program in administration still, as I've indicated, we will continue. We have done the quarterly assessments as we are required to do so, and we have done now even the disaggregation of the information and summary reports, and the feedback has already been given to provinces and metros. We may move to the next area, which is Integrated Human Settlements Planning and Development Program, Program 2 of our department, and that in this regard, we have finalized the report that was emanating from the 2024-29 MTSF. We have now, as you may know, converted all of what was there, including the new targets for the MTDP. And we have monitored 6 of our entities in terms of the performance, and we have given them the feedback and the necessary support where it's required to make sure that they are able to continue achieving as part of our monitoring program. The other key thing is that we have implemented 15 intergovernmental relations programs. And these are important in ensuring that we work quite closely with the stakeholders where we have interdependencies to deliver, but also importantly with our own entities to ensure that we are able to seamlessly work as a machinery and a system as it was designed to be. On the Program 3, informal settlements upgrading, in this area, we have provided support on the implementation of the ISUPG to all 9 provinces, and where we have found that some provinces have lagged behind and have not been able to perform, like Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, we had been able to stop and reallocate some of those resources. We have been assisting the provinces that are now going to be the recipient of this part to be able to spend that money before March. And all is looking well, and we are on track to be able to do that. And the Treasury itself has done a run on our numbers, and it has come back to agree with us that our numbers are correct and our intervention approach has worked well. We have also, for the first time, done the disaster awareness support to provinces as well as to metros. And this was quite well received because it clarified even some of the key things, and we have even began looking at the revision of the disaster framework and in allowing smaller disasters to be handled at the municipal as well as at the provincial level. Moving to the next slide on Program 4, which is Rental and Social Housing Program. We had 4 targets planned in this area. All 4 were achieved. In this regard, our focus has been on SHRA and the social housing stock, as well as the rental housing stock. In as far as the rental housing program, our concerns were clear previously as communicated in the last parliament. The portfolio committee then had raised concerns that we can't keep on rolling out rental stock if it's not being properly managed and without us having to provide focus and reportage on whether or not this were being managed properly. One is to now report proudly, Chair, that we have seen a significant improvement in that space. We know that as we speak, 90% of the social housing institutions are performing very, very well, and we have 95% tenancy rates, meaning that the buildings are being occupied and people are renting. And we also are having 96% collection rate, which is even impressive, better than even some in the private sector. So given that, we are quite keen on now beginning a further rollout of this, and we're looking at the support we are providing to the SHRA for purposes of them improving in that space. Then, Chair, we are also having an implementation of the CRU program. You may know that it had stalled a little bit, but we are back with all the 5 provinces that still have hostels, and we are working with them to ensure that we drive this thing in this regard and to ensure that we are able to achieve it. How we have been able to improve on this was with the ring fencing of at least up to 15% of the grant to be able to allow provinces and metros that have the CRUs to work on this program and to be able to expand the financing in that regard. And this has now proven that that dedicated funding has helped in ensuring that the program can move forward. Next program slide, which is program 5, affordable housing. And in this regard, we have continued to provide support to provinces around an array of our program. We had 5 targets in this area. One of them was on the issue of title deeds. As you may know, Chair, this year we have, out of the lessons of this and the engagements, all provincial departments have agreed that the challenges are now at municipal level, and we now need to move and engage with all municipalities. We are planning a municipal conference on titling, and also now in March we are having a seminar on titling itself and how to resolve some of the sticky challenges we are still having. And we are also looking at new directives, ministerial directives, to unblock the long-standing issues, including the Mawiga matter, as well as the matter of the Kano project. And we are looking at getting that going. The consultation is important with all municipalities that we are at IDEM about the measures we need to take and the special resolutions municipalities will have to do to enable the minister to declare a special dispensation around the issuance of title deeds, even where townships are yet to be declared. So we think that that will help us with the greatest of the backlog that's there. And on the BNG unit too, we have been looking at that. We are just from a strategic planning session. We think going forward that is going to change, but as is in terms of the APP, we are now being measured on. We had continued to provide the support to provinces to deliver on the BNG units as was originally done. Our focus on service sites to provinces, we are extending it now to metros. And in this regard, we have been providing support to both provinces and metros to deliver service sites, including one on the first home finance. We had also augmented the resources in this regard, and we have encouraged the 2 largest provinces, KwaZulu-Natal as well as Gauteng, to reinvest some of the money into the first home finance program and to work with the NHFC to deliver that. And that has happened. We are providing support, as I've indicated, to the 50 national priority catalytic projects, including the smart cities. The chair says she wants. The chair says he wants the briefing on. We will provide a fuller, bigger reportage, and our portfolio of evidence does indicate what support we had rendered to each and every one of the 50 in this framework. Next slide would be an overview of the financial performance, and just to preface the presentation or the part of the CFO with the indication that the minister had looked at our performance as at third quarter and interrogated our plans for spending in the fourth quarter and the delays, particularly on big ticket items like the SETA contracts and all of that, and to see whether indeed we would finish well in terms of spending as well. And we have presented those plans, and the minister has agreed with us on the rollout of those plans. We are now hard at work resolving the big ticket items to ensure that the expenditure needle is also shifted significantly. So the picture as you see it will look at 67% expenditure now, but by the end of the fourth quarter, we think we'll be in the upper 90s. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, DG. Honorable Chairperson, members, DG, colleagues, good morning. Chairperson, as DG has indicated, as of the 31st of December, we are sitting at 67%. And I think the reason why we are there at 67% is because we had received additional funding, especially for the emergencies. And that's why we had an increase, because this is the adjusted budget. The upper part, it shows the expenditure and allocation per program. The program that DG was talking about, administration, integrated human settlements, planning and development, the informal settlements, rental and social and affordable housing. And when you look at the bottom part is the one that is breaking, whereby we are able to see how we are sitting when it comes to the compensation of employees. We are sitting at 67%. And on the goods and services, we are sitting at 42%. And included, Chairperson and members, on the goods and services is the issue of the building material as well that we are responding to, which we call the fire kits. That's why we are sitting at 42%, and it shows that the goods and services has gone up because we are sitting with 688 million. And on the transfers and subsidies, that's where all our grants are sitting. We are sitting at 69%. The payments for capital assets, that is reflecting 24%. It's where our emergency housing fund that deals with the TRUs is sitting together with our departmental assets. So we are sitting at 24%, but I'm going to break down on my next slides the performance of the emergency housing fund. The next slide is giving us now, we are taking out the transfers and subsidies. We are looking at only the operational budget, and which shows that we are not doing very well when it comes to the operational budget, because we are sitting at 51%. And the goods and services is what DG has spoken to, that we had to come up with the remedial plans. What is it that we are going to do differently in the next 3 months so that we don't have money that will be reverting back to the revenue fund. So there's a slide that I'll be able to indicate the areas that we have picked up and what is it that we are going to do differently. And our internal assets, the payments for capital asset, the one that's 51% is only our internal assets, whereby we are procuring the office furnitures and stuff like that and the laptops. So that is the one that is sitting on 51%. The next slide. Chair and members, we thought that maybe we should indicate the main reasons why we are sitting at 38% on our goods and services. The goods and services is linked to our procurement plan. On the program 1, we have got the issues that we were requested that we need to do the lifestyle audits. Then we had to make 25 million available to do the lifestyle audit. Hence, we are showing an underspending under the line item of internal audit, risk management and investigation. That is where the lifestyle audit will be done at. Then the issues of the SETA is what DJ had already spoken about. And this week we have resolved most of the issues, and the monies will be transferred to SETA because they're the one that are dealing with our infrastructure. We have addressed that issue. Under program 2 as well, there is where our subsidy, housing subsidy system, the HSS, is sitting, and also we've got a contract with SETA that we have finalized now. It's just awaiting to tie in the last ends, and we'll be able to give SETA, because the invoices that they will be sending us are equivalent to 30 million and will be going to improve. And the other line item, Chair, we've got in our budget funds that are ring-fenced for the title deed restoration support. There is 35 million that is sitting in there, and we have experienced the delays. And last week on Monday, we met with the program manager to try and see what is it that we can do that will be able to ensure that we don't lose the money back, because these funds are specifically ring-fenced to deal with the title deed. Program 3, Chair, we've got 2 line items that are sitting under program 3, which is informal settlements, that is also ring-fenced. The first one is the National Upgrading Support Program. We've got 31.4 million that is sitting in there. Up to now, it has not been spent. And we've got the Emergency House Risk Mitigation Reduction that has been allocated 9 million, and that one also is not spent. And we've got the Emergency Housing Assessments that we have a budget of 10 million. On the emergency housing assessments, when there are emergencies, we have got an agreement with our sister entity, the NHBRC, that they will be going on the ground to do the assessments to see the structural the structural defects, all the things that need repairs. And we have invoices that we have received, because we had to go to them because we know that they've been doing those assessments. We requested them to give us invoices, and we are busy processing most of the invoices that are sitting from the NHBRC. Then we are going to see an improvement in this regard. And under program 5, Chair, we've got an underspending. We know that we are supposed to deal with the UN South African country office. There are loose tight ends that needs to be dealt with there. We have approached Treasury. We requested 19 million. Treasury have agreed. So then once everything has been done and all the agreements have been signed, we will be able to transfer the 20 million. Next slide. This slide, Chairperson and members, is giving us the synopsis of the transfer payments and the grants. We know that we deal with 4 grants. Some of them are the grants that are transferred to provinces, and the other ones that are transferred to the municipalities. By end of this financial year, we know that we'll be sitting at 100%, especially when it comes to all the grants. However, when we look at the entities, we have already transferred everything to all our entities. Hence, the variance is sitting at 0, and then the transferred funds is 100%. When you look at the below bottom, the scholarship program, it's sitting at 44%. We know that by the end of the 3rd quarter, it was already December, and the new intake of the universities are happening around January and February. We had a conversation internally, and we have picked up that we have got students that will be paying for. We were waiting for the invoices from the tertiary institutions, and then we are going to process them. We are going to improve on the scholarship program. On the UN Habitat is the 19 million that I spoke about for the country office that I indicated earlier on, that once everything is done, we'll be able to process and transfer the 19 million to the UN Habitat. The next slide. Chair, we are giving a synopsis on the emergency housing as of the 31st of December. And when we look at all the items, the overall money or allocation for the emergency housing fund is 1 billion. We received additional money through the UNU process that we went to National Treasury and Cabinet, that we were worried that the rainy seasons are coming, and the chairperson did indicate that there were the rainy seasons. We know the flooding that happened in Northwest and then also in Gauteng. So the Cabinet did approve additional funding, hence we have moved to 1 billion. However, Chair, we are sitting at 29%. The assessment under goods and services, the 10 million allocation is the one I spoke to for the NHBRC, for all the assessments that are sitting, which is reflecting a zero expenditure. However, once we have processed all the invoices from NHBRC, we are going to improve in that regard. The second line item, the travel and subsistence, which is the non-employees that we have allocated 30 million. This is sitting at 59%. This is where when the residents needs to be evacuated and then been taken to a safer place, especially when their houses are flooded and then we need to move on to a safer place. And then this is the one whereby we are sitting at 59%. And I know that there are invoices that are coming from Cape Town. There were residents that were taken out of their homes when Cape Town was flooding, and then we relocated them to safer accommodations. And then once we get is that 1.4 also as well, which is a commitment. And then once we process that one, we are going to see an improvement. The one item that we are doing well, Chair, is the building materials. These are the fire kits, especially when there are fires. We know that we had a couple of fires, especially in Cape Town around December and January, and we have allocated 100 million on those building materials. We are sitting at 86%, and as well as the repairs. Once we get the reports from NHBRC, we do the repairs. And what we have adopted now, and we've seen it working, we are saying that we are doing a self-repair. We are buying the materials from the report that we would have received from the assessors that this particular house and this particular resident, this is what they need. And then we will buy and give them the materials so that they can repair their own houses. So we have got a lot, especially from the rains that happened around December. I know in Noto area, we have already started there, and some in the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape that will be sending the building materials so that they can do the self-repairs, and that 7% is going to improve. Chairperson, the one that we are not doing very well is the one that is the temporary residential units. The TRU is the one that is reflecting a 22%. However, when we look at the line item that's written commitments, it shows that we are having service providers that are already on the ground worth 374 million that are doing the work. The only thing, Chair, that's happening is maybe they are taking time to conclude or to invoice us, because some of the service providers, they prefer to invoice once they have finished the erection of the TRU. And some of the service providers, they elect to invoice us on milestones. So we are sitting at 22%, but however, we are putting forward that we have commitments. And what we did, Chair, to capacitate the panel that we are having, we approached as well the KZN, Department of Human Settlements, to find out if we can participate in their panel of the TRUs. They did agree. We looked at their procurement processes and they're fine. So we are starting to utilize the panel of KZN, because we know that's where we need most of the TRUs. And the other TRUs, Chair, that we need is the Western Cape province. We approached the Eastern Cape. We did approach the Eastern Cape province to participate in their panel. However, there were glitches when it comes to the procurement, and then we couldn't proceed with that. The next slide. The other target that we are sitting with is the payment of invoices within 30 days. We are reporting that as of the 31st of December, we have processed 3,389 invoices, and all those invoices, they've been paid within 30 days. Next slide. The next few slides, we are talking about the conditional grants. As of the 31st of December, on the Human Settlement Development Grant, just to give a brief, this is the grant that we are transferring to the provinces. The expenditure that we are seeing here is the actual expenditure from the provinces. We have color-coded to show how these provinces were looking like as of the 31st of December, and from there, a lot had happened. The one that were sitting below 80%, it was Free State 73, Gauteng 66, KwaZulu-Natal 74. I'll talk to the Northern Cape of 25%, and then Western Cape, they were sitting at 75%. Earlier on, Chairperson and members, we did report on the Northern Cape that due to the front loading, Northern Cape, they are utilizing the HSDG to pay the DBSA. Hence, they are reflecting that 25 because the 200 million is a repayment of the loan that they got on the front loading. However, the report on the 600 million that they got is not included here. So what we did during the third quarter, we started the process of looking at those provinces that were indicating that they will be unable to spend. Because given the budget cuts, we were looking at, we don't want to be losing the money back to the fiscus. And there were those provinces that were indicating the pressures. We can see, Chairperson and members, Limpopo, as of the 31st of December, they're sitting at 98%. So it means that if Limpopo, they don't receive additional money, Limpopo won't be able to pay, or is closed shop for Limpopo because they're only left with 18 million. When we look at Mpumalanga province, they're sitting at 84%. So out of their annual allocation, they're left with 143 million. And when we look at Northwest as well, they're sitting at 82%. So we started the processes of those that were not doing very well. We requested them to submit their recovery plans. We looked at the recovery plans. After having a series of discussions, we approached National Treasury to request if we can stop portions of the allocations from Free State 50 million, Gauteng Province 300 million, and Western Cape 200 million. And we requested it to be reallocated to Limpopo 200, Mpumalanga 250, and then KZN 100 million. And once we have done that, National Treasury from their side, they need to satisfy themselves as well. By January or around February, we did receive a letter from National Treasury that came to the DG to say, DG, we have done the work as well. We agree with you on these provinces that you have indicated that they won't be able to spend the allocation. So what we are waiting for now is a gazette from National Treasury because they did agree with us that they will be stopping the allocation of Free State by 50 million, the allocation of Gauteng by 300 million, and the allocation of Western Cape by 200 million, and it will be reallocated to KwaZulu-Natal 100 million, Limpopo 200, and Mpumalanga 250 million. Next slide. What we did, Chairperson and members, with the HSDG, we had to do the same with the Informal Settlements Upgrading Partnership Grant. We looked at the provinces that were not doing very well, that we are reflecting here as red. You can see that Gauteng, they're sitting with 58%. You can see that Northwest, they're sitting with 46%, and then Western Cape, they're sitting with 55%. We went to all of them as well. We said, submit your recovery plan. Let us see if you will be able to spend the entire allocation. Northwest, they came back to us to reclassify some of the projects because they've got bigger projects that are sitting on the HSDG that in fact they need to reclassify them as part of the ISUPG grant. And then after having a series of meetings with them, we looked at the business plan and we did agree that 2 of those projects will be reclassified. And once we reclassify those projects from the HSDG to the ISUPG, they will be able to, they will in fact need additional money. Then when we look at Gauteng province, the recovery plan was not convincing. When we look at the Western Cape, the recovery plan was not convincing. What we did with the HSDG, we did it again here. We approached National Treasury as well. We requested National Treasury because we don't want to not spend the allocation. We requested Treasury if we can stop 150 million from Gauteng province and 100 million from Western Cape. And we wanted to reallocate it to the Northern Cape province because we can see that Northern Cape are getting the lowest allocation of 78. Treasury came back to us and said they have looked at all the provinces. They agree with the proposing to stop, but they don't agree with the reallocations. So we had to come back looking at the performance of January and we made another submission to the National Treasury, and the DG has submitted a letter. We are still waiting for their response. Next slide. On the Urban Settlement Development Grant, Chair and members, you can see that December is half year for the metropolitan municipalities, and the processes as well, they are done here. But when we looked here at all of them, there's no one that was sitting over 50%, because if we have to do a straight line method, by 6 months, we would have expected all the metros should have spent at least 50% of their annual allocation. But when we look at them, all of them are sitting below 50%. And we couldn't even approach National Treasury to say we can stop, and we are proposing to stop and reallocate, because there was no one that was sitting above 50% when it comes to the metropolitan municipalities. We had started with several meetings. We had a series of meetings with Mangaung, because we had to withhold some of the tranches. We had several meetings with City of Ekurhuleni as well, and we had meetings. So we also as well started the processes, but this time the process is done through the National Treasury. The next slide. On the Informal Settlements Upgrading Partnership Grant as well, the performance does not look good. You can see we have got a lot of rates, and only City of Tshwane is the one that is sitting above 50%. All the metros, when it comes to the Informal Settlements Upgrading Partnership Grant, the performance is not satisfactory. Next slide. We received emails from National Treasury because we were expected to have transferred the last tranches of the USDG and the ISUPG to the metros. National Treasury said they are starting the process because Section 18 of the Act allows them to use their own discretion to stop if they anticipate that there will be an underspending. Treasury has requested that we should not transfer the USDG to all these 6 metros and the ISUPG to the 5 metros. So when we look at what Treasury has already proposed, is the same as the slide that I put forward. Everybody that we have reflected as rate is what Treasury is saying, do not transfer. And as of now, they've already issued out the letters to all the metropolitan municipalities that are here on the slide to send them an intention to stop a portion, and they have requested all these metros to submit to them in writing the reasons why they should not stop and to submit the recovery plan. As National Department, we are part of those processes. We have requested National Treasury that we need to be engaged. We had our technical min-mac last week, Friday, whereby the metros did commit that we are going to have together with us so that we can meet National Treasury and start discussing the recovery plans, because we agreed, all of us, that we don't want to lose this money back to the fiscus. Next slide. These are areas of improvement, Chairperson, as we are about to conclude. I think what we need to improve on is the integrated planning, the budgeting and the reporting, and then we need to strengthen our intersectoral collaboration for us as human settlements to work efficiently and effectively, and also is going to improve accountability and timers reporting. Chair, I think I've come to the end of our presentation. We are hereby, as the National Department, recommending that the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements notes the performance of the Q3 and provide guidance. Thank you so much.
DG, are you fine?
We are okay, Chair. It's a full presentation on our side. Thank you very much.
Okay, honorable members, there is the Q3 performance report with its financial report. Can we engage with the report? Honorable Kekakilwe, followed by Honorable Ketamabala, Honorable Abada. In that order. Honorable Kekakilwe.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to honorable members and to all officials from the department. Firstly, Chair, let me congratulate the department for their performance on the non-financial issues. 100%, they've really improved a lot. And then I will go straight to the finances and ask the department, why did they only spend 67% on integrated human settlement planning and development and 65% on informal settlements, while still have a huge challenge on these two areas? I mean, the country is really struggling with these two areas. And again, why did they only spend 42% on goods and services? I hear the CFO explaining, but it's not really convincing. Because when they say these goods and services are for to assist our community members who were involved or who were involved in a disaster, and we still have a huge backlog, but we are only and happily say we have spent 42%. And why only 69% was spent on transfers and subsidies? And then what are the main reasons for this under expenditure as they are not stated in the report? And then the other thing, what causes the delays in the procurement process for the department to have about 31.4 million ring-fenced, as well as and then the next question, 9 million is also ring-fenced, which was budgeted for emergency housing. And we've done our oversight and we have seen that there's a bare need for this emergency housing. And then the risk reduction, 10 million awaiting invoices for emergency housing assessments. My question is, if they are awaiting invoices, was the service provided? Because with the service providers, once they've concluded their job, immediately they submit the invoices. I just want to know why the delay. And then there's this issue with regard to the finalization of the agreement for the payment of UN Habitat. What are the challenges for the agreement to be finalized? And then when it comes to grants and transfer payments, why is the municipalities transfers at 57% while there is no service delivery at the local level? And we expect the municipality to perform, but there is money there not being transferred to them for them to be able to provide their services to our community members. And then for urban settlement development grant, only 53% was transferred. And informal settlement upgrading partnership grant to municipalities, only 67% was transferred. Why are the outstanding monies not transferred to the municipalities for them to be able to do their job? And then for the temporary residential units, only 22% of the allocated budget was used. Why this huge underspending, while there is a need for temporary residential units in most of our provinces? And then for HSDG, I can see there that the Northern Cape is not spending. So I just want to know, they've spent only 22%. Does the department have any plan or strategy to assist the Northern Cape? And then ISUPG, Northwest Gauteng and Western Cape are not doing well at all in the spending of this grant. What is the department intending to do to ensure that the allocated budget is properly and fully utilized? I fear that the CFO has indicated that some of the monies were transferred to where they can be properly utilized, but really the provinces need to be supported. And if there is a need, a consequence management should be done. We cannot be having people who are in the provinces and there is money allocated and they don't know how to use that money. And then for Gauteng and Western Cape, they are also not spending. The department consulted the treasury to reallocate that money to other provinces. With regard to Gauteng and Western Cape, is the department having any plan to assist them rather than reallocating their budget? Because the community members are the ones suffering. And I do not expect that at the end of the quarter is when that we are going to see that provinces are not spending. If we can change and if the department can change and compel all the provinces to report at least monthly, so that by the first month, if that province is not spending, something is done on the second month. And then, Chair, looking at all our metros, all of them are really not spending, their grants, USDG and ISUPG. What does the department do to ensure that all these metros, they really perform? They've been allocated money is just there, and money is going to be reallocated. Can we get an explanation as to what is the department doing to ensure that our metros are performing? That is all that I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stole.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to you and all members. Honorable Chairperson, first of all, we have to thank the department and appreciate their presentation. But Honorable Chairperson, I'm worried because if you can see the issue of CRU, I'm from Gauteng, Honorable Chairperson. I know what is happening to all hostels that are in Gauteng. Actually, even the pig, the nowadays pig cannot sit in those hostels. They are very dirty, and even the killing in those hostels, it happened because of the poor condition where they live. Because people are not safe when they are there because of conditions of their property. So I'm trying to check, Honorable Chairperson, if they make 100% of 5 provinces, if they can give us those provinces, because most of the provinces that they have CRUs are not performing. They are not performing, Honorable Chairperson. And because some of them are under municipalities and some are under provinces. So because there's a grant that the National Parliament has been given to them, what mechanism to the national government do to monitor their money? Because even us as a portfolio committee, we have to monitor our money, because the grant that they are given to them, they are not actually using optimally. So now I'm trying to check on which person if they can give us their strategic plan for the Honorable Chairperson. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, I'm worried about the underspending of compensation of employees, because you see the performing of employees, actually it influenced by by their payment, by the payment that they are getting from the employer. So now, if that one can be fixed, Honorable Chairperson, because it's not good. And the other Honorable Chairperson is the issue of Program 2. I think other honorable members touch on UN Habitat because it's only 14%. And the other, I'm worried about the scholar support because that one's supposed to be prioritized. Because if you can check, there's a lot of children that are or students that are not being financed by NF, but I look Kolumalo. Lama funders, yeah, NSFAS. Thank you very much. NSFAS. They are not being funded. But the department is even not involved in helping those students because some they don't have even the accommodation. Please, Honorable DG, can you help us to understand the program that you do have for that? And Honorable Chairperson, I'm worried about temporary residential unit. You see, if you go to Durban and visit those temporary residential units, actually it's shocking because some are there for a long time. They are there for a long time. So now, if that Honorable Chairperson can be fast-tracked for the benefit of the people that are in that temporary residential units. And the other Honorable Chairperson is the issue of Northern Cape. What plan do they have? Because 25% actually is discussed is something that is very terrible and very critically for nationally to look at because there is a grant that are given to them. So even us, we are following the grant data from national. So Honorable Chairperson, I will be happy to find the report and that the planning report or recovery plan for Northwest. And the last one, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of metros. I think other members touch on that one. You see the informal settlement that are mushrooming in the province, especially in the Gauteng, is actually shocking because most of the areas they are being occupied they are being invaded by members of the community unlawfully. So now I'm trying to check this issue of informal settlement, Honorable Chairperson. It was been there for a long time. They even say they are going to have the security that will guide the mushrooming of the informal settlement, but nothing is happening. We didn't have so many informal settlement in Tswane, but now it is mushrooming, and we have areas that were not been allocated. So now the informal settlement are invading all those areas. If that one, Honorable Chairperson, can be looked at, and I'm worried, Honorable Chairperson, because there is in Kliptown. There are informal settlements that are there for a long time, but there's nothing that's happening. Even their houses are dilapidated. If that one can be looked at, Honorable Chairperson, by the national government, because the informal settlement, we have a program to deal with the informal settlement. That program and that fund that's supposed to help the national government, please, can you take that fund from the provinces and do it yourself, whatever need to be done in those provinces. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Abada.
Chair, good morning. Sorry.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Chair. Good morning to the support team and DG and your team and my honorable members. Hope you're all well. Okay. DG, thank you for the presentation. It all looks very good and nice and pretty. But, you know, when we started the seventh administration, it's something that we've been speaking about all the time in terms of budgets. Now, I'm just going to use a bit of my financial background. So we given generally a budget, and we know prior to us getting our budget what we need the money for. Our housing throughout all 9 provinces are a mess. So for me, I cannot understand, and you know, the brain's not braining and the math is not mathing in terms of how are we reallocating funds from different provinces. We all know that every single province, be it the informal settlement, be it the housing situation, is a mess. So I cannot fathom how we're sending back money or how we're reallocating money. Now, for me, when we don't use money, that means the Treasury is going to come back to us and say, well, we allocated X amount for, let's just say, Gauteng, and you didn't use that, so you don't actually need that amount. So we're going to cut your budget. But then we come back and we complain that we budgets have been cut, or budget, but, you know. So it doesn't make sense to me. So the one thing is, you know, we're not speaking about, you know, even R1 million to our people on the street is a lot of money. I mean, they don't even have 10 rand, some of them. And we're talking about sending back 10 million for emergency housing assessments were not fully utilized.
Hello, Chairperson. Can you please mute?
Can I continue?
Yes, continue.
Okay. And then 150 million from Gauteng, 100 million from the Western Cape. Now, I'm just going to talk about Gauteng and Western Cape because Gauteng is my home province and my deployment is Western Cape. There's so many informal settlements that we haven't even looked at. It's increasing by the day. There's new informal settlements coming up. And then we're sending back 150 million for Gauteng and 100 million for Western Cape. Again, we cannot be constantly complaining about budget cuts when we're not using the facilities we have. So my question is, why has there been persistent underspending, particularly in key programs such as informal settlements, upgrading and emergency housing? 550 million in grants had to be reallocated due to underperformance in certain provinces, example, Gauteng, Free State and Western Cape. Delays in procurement and service provider appointments have hindered progress in housing subsidies, title deeds and emergency housing assessments. Now, my recommendation here is the department must present a concrete action plan to ensure full expenditure of allocated budgets in the final quarter of 24-25. Quarterly expenditure reports should be tabled before the portfolio committee, highlighting risks and mitigation strategies. The department's 100% performance achievement does not align with financial underperformance, indicating potential inefficiency in target setting. My second question, this raises concerns about whether targets are truly impactful or merely administrative checklists. Now, you know, the presentation is basically a checklist for us, and it doesn't sit well with me. And then what immediate measures are being implemented to address procurement bottlenecks and ensure timely delivery of housing projects? And then I concur with well, I'm covered a lot by Honorable Liwe. And then I agree with her in terms of where we have to do a monthly report, because that will give us a better indication and give the department a better indication of what's going on. And also with Honorable Sitoli, the informal settlements. There's just too many of them, and we need to get this going. We can't expect new budgets and we're sending or we're reallocating money. So I have a huge problem with the reallocation of our budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, can you allow me to allow the DG and his team just to address those first set of questions? And once they have answered, then I'll come back to the remaining hands. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of questions, and some of your questions are going to be missed, and they will complain that they are not answered. Do you allow me to do that?
Yes, Chair.
Chair, can I have a request?
Yes.
I seem to have a problem of my network where I am right now. I'm pleading with you. I just decided to find a good place right now. Can I just comment or ask a few questions, then the others can follow?
Okay. Let's do that quickly.
Chair,
Honorable Poole.
can I make a proposal? I think the department can make notes. Can we go for the first round, all members, and then I think we will done with the meeting.
Okay, seemingly members are resisting. Okay, DG and your team, just make sure that you note every question. I thought I'm making it easier. Okay, let's continue as usual. Honorable Gamede.
Thank you very much, Chair. We seem to have a problem these
Members
days.
can just show their faces and then they can close again the camera. That show your face and then you can close your camera again.
Yeah, the instruction from Parliament is that show your face because you have a problem of network. Then,
can you see me now? Can you see me? It's me.
Yeah, I can see this young face.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because of these things, people they can simply what you call fake my voice and pretend as if it was me, or as it wasn't me. No, it's fine. Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions. The first one is on the sustainability and long-term impact. Given the reported 100% achievement of planned targets, how does the department ensure that these successes translate into sustainable and long-term improvements in human settlement beyond just meeting numerical targets? On the budget utilization and efficiency, despite the high performance rate, there are significant underspending issues across simple programs due to delays in procurement and service provider appointments. What measures are being implemented to improve budget execution, efficiency, and also prevent future underspending? I think also I need to let me just make my comments before I can give my recommendations to the committee or to the department. On the positive progress in performance trends, the department has shown improvements in its quarterly performance from 97% in quarter 2 and 200% in quarter 3. Indicating effective planning and execution. However, continuous monitoring is necessary to ensure consistency and sustainability. On challenges in grant reallocation and execution, the reallocation of unspent funds from provinces with lower expenditures to those with higher demands is a commendable strategy. However, it raises concern about potential systemic inefficiencies in underperforming regions that needs to be addressed through capacity building and support. Just a recommendation to my recommendations to the department, especially from the side of enhancing what you call enhancing. Am I still audible, Chair?
Yes,
Hello,
you are.
Chair.
Yes.
Okay. On enhancing financial planning and execution, I think the department should also adopt proactive financial management strategies to mitigate delays in procurement and approvals. This could also involve streamlining procurement processes and also strengthening contract management and ensuring early engagement with service providers. In strengthening impact, this is the last one, impact assessment and quality assurance. While targets, while targets are being met, a qualitative review should be conducted to assess the real world impact on communities. Independent audit and beneficiary feedback mechanisms could help ensure that the delivered projects truly address housing challenges. I'll just stop there, my chairperson. Thank you very much for the presentation to you, DG, and your team. But I'm also in agreement with my fellow colleagues. All the questions and the important things that they have raised, they are quite important. I hope my questions will also be given sufficient and undivided attention. We will look forward to hear from you. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Frenchman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to all present. Chairperson, as a committee, we need to have access to the provincial reports that get submitted. For us to be more effective in its duties, we need to access data so that we can better assist the department. With just the presentations, we are basically limited to make, good assessments. And then,
Yes, ma'am.
Member Kamete, please mute.
Yes, Uncle.
Honorable Kamete, please mute.
And then I wanted to ask the department if we can get a status report on fraud and corruption within the department. What has been done about it? Just an update on that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Poole.
Morning, Chair.
You are muted, Honorable Poole. Unmute, Honorable Poole.
Honorable Chair, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Honorable members, good morning, and DJ and his team. Thank you for the well-structured presentation. But yes, as a committee member, we also have questions or only seek clarification. And
I'm struggling to hear Honorable.
Yeah, it means it's your network. We can hear him very well.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chair, my first question or clarification is on slide 19 of the presentation, dealing with the departmental expenditure. So the current spending administration 59 over 40% still to spend. IHSBD 67%, over 33 still to spend. Informal settlements 65%, 35% still to spend. My question is the department committed to spend these huge percentages in only 1 quarter left? Then two, slide 21 is a serious problem. If you look at the main reasons for underspending, specifically the programs highlighted, is so crucial and interlinked with each other, meaning it needs fit for purpose administration, well competent, corruption-free department in order for us as a department to see to it that we service our people out there. Why we still await 3 million approvals and 35 million delayed in appointment of a service provider? Clearly, I assume there was time frames with deadlines. What was the consequence management not making that deadline? Three, slide 21 refers to delays, and that forbids South African citizens to be serviced. Can the department give us more insight of what delays we're talking about and what caused the delays and the impact it have on the performance of the department? And then 5.6 emergency housing. Well, the CFO explained and she gives us a reason, but goods and services, it reflects 0% spending because we as a department await MBR 8 invoice to grant us invoices. My question is, how long still we have to wait on this entity as a department to give us the invoices so that 0% can in fact turn to 10%. Then the time frame for the department finalized the review of its organizational structure in this current book year. And what is confused when it comes to the relocated funds? And I think the previous member alluded to it. CFO talks about the criteria was used for every province under 80%. They look at that province not achieving 18%. And then they engage. But what is confused, how can a province not meet that criteria, sitting on 74%, but get the additional money take away from a province of 75%, 1% more than the one getting the extra money? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Very good morning to all colleagues. Chair, just a few points. The first one really that I wanted to start off with is regarding travel in the department. I mean, it's very disheartening to see news reports that the department thus far has spent 16 million rand on travel. And I think really, really, this is a slap in the face for people in this country to see officials and elected members of this parliament and the executive being able to stay at hotels that are costing over 100,000 rand, costing the taxpayer. I mean, really, we're talking about budgets here, but at the end of the day, this department has spent so much money on luxury travel. It's completely absurd. And I really want to understand from the department why, or does it feel that that amount that it spent on travel was worthwhile? Because honestly, when we have so many problems on the ground, when we have, as Honorable Sithole has mentioned, informal settlements erupting at every corner of our communities where people have a lack of access to housing, it cannot be that our department really is focusing most of its resources on travel. So can the department please answer that particular point, that is it correct to be spending 16 million rand on travel? Is it correct for people to be staying at luxury hotels for the amount of money that the taxpayer is really being costed? I mean, it cannot be. So I'm really, really unhappy about that. And I think all of us as members of parliament and in this particular portfolio committee cannot not condemn that particular behavior by the department. It's completely unacceptable. Chair, to move from there, I wanted to speak about the payment of of contractors in provinces. I think it's quite clear that there's a major issue where provinces are not paying contractors who they've contracted either to build BNG housing or social housing. And I really wanted to understand, what is the department's strategy or position to really engage provinces on non-payment, particularly when the job has been completed? Why are provinces failing to pay suppliers or contractors? Because it's really, really, really becoming a big problem. And you yourself, Chair, mentioned that you had an issue in a particular province where contractors were left unpaid. And in Eastern Cape, where I've received countless issues regarding non-payment by the province. How does the department plan to address this particular issue? And can the department please really elaborate on that particular strategy, because it seems that it's becoming a really, really huge problem across the provinces. I want to speak on the point on the reallocation of funds, because I really remember quite well in a previous meeting, we were told that funds are not going to be reallocated anymore, that there was a new strategy that was being implemented by the department. So I'm very surprised now to hear that that is now something that the department is doing. Can I just have some clarity around that issue on the reallocation of funds? Because I thought that the department had moved away from that particular strategy and had decided to at least work with the provinces to ensure that budgets or allocations are spent within the financial year. Then I want to speak on the title deeds. I think title deeds are a huge problem. We're seeing it in Gauteng and many other provinces. What is the department's position on title deeds and the really, really slow pace in which title deeds are being handed out? We cannot, colleagues, not prioritize this particular issue where we are seeing on a continual basis that people have been waiting for title deeds for many years. And I think it's a travesty for us to not have a way in which we engage municipalities and provinces around this particular issue. We have to find a way to ensure that the issuing of title deeds is done in a way in which people are given the dignity that they deserve before they die. Really, we have to do much more than what we've done in regards to title deeds. And I really think that the department should take us into confidence around what they're doing to ensure that they speed up the issuing of title deeds. Last 2 points. Regarding poor quality housing, can the department maybe elaborate as to who do individuals who have been beneficiaries contact when their house starts to fall? Because there must be recourse for that particular issue. Because once we ask questions regarding consequence management for poor quality housing, and there is no proper consequence management, then it makes me very concerned for a beneficiary that receives a house, but yet that house completely falls apart. It cannot be that that is the situation on the ground, which is what's happening. So what is the recourse that the department has for beneficiaries who receive poor quality housing? And lastly, in regards to emergency housing, the emergency housing fund, what is the process for members of the community and members of this portfolio committee to contact or at least communicate with the department where building materials are required after a natural disaster? Can we maybe just have some clarity on that? Because I know that with the new process of development, it has been allowed for metros. Yet there are particular areas in which people find themselves not within a municipality that is regarded as a metro. And so in that instance, how fast or how quick does those particular building materials get to the individual? And perhaps the department can give us an example of places where that particular situation has happened, because really, 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 people are left without any form of dignity once they've been hit by a natural disaster. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. DG and your team.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The questions are a lot, and I will try to be as brief as I can to respond to some. Just to indicate that with the support we provide to provinces, I think there is a recognition that we can only do to the extent allowed for by law. Our own constitutional arrangements provides for the three spheres, and each with its own authority and power. And there are provinces that are quite sensitive to national government overstepping its mark, and that the constitution recognizes the autonomy of these provinces. However, it directs that we are interrelated and interdependent, and does not necessarily advocate for independence. But we know that in real practical support, the provisions of the IGR Framework Act actually are limited by human interaction and by the manner in which we relate with each other. But the reality of the matter is that one can give even an example of Ekurhuleni, where even with best intentions for us to assist the city, even when we avail capacity and people, if the city itself does not sit as a council and pass the necessary resolutions that are required to make the intervention worthwhile and to be effective, it will not be effective. But that would not be because the national government has not done what it was expected to do to provide the support. The support was provided. It's an old adage of having to take the horse to the river, but being unable to force that horse to drink the water. And I think that when we do say we are providing support to the provinces and the metros concerned, indeed we do. And there are instances where that support is welcome, embraced, and we have seen changes, and we have seen even an improvement in performance. Historically, we can look at the performance of both Limpopo and Mpumalanga, who used to be candidates where we take money from because of lack of performance. But once we set up working teams that went down, supported them, put systems into place and so on, now you can see that their machinery for expenditure has been ramped upwards. For the last 3 years, these provinces have been performing above average. And I think it is quite clear that the interventions do work. Of recent is our intervention relative to the Northwest Province, and where they've just been in section 100A and then 100B. And as you are aware, we have supported the Human Settlement Department in that province to be able to get out of its financial morass. Of course, they still have a huge backlog where the reason why Section 100 was even approved by Parliament itself was in recognition that they have overcommitted themselves. So the end result and the symptoms we are seeing of that root cause of contractors not being able to be paid and so on, I think the historical perspective shouldn't be lost because we know where we come from with them. However, we have seen their plans. We have asked for a long-term plans from them. We worked with them. We critiqued these plans. There were parts we disagreed with, and there were parts we agreed with. And finally, the Treasury agreed with us that they have a longer-term plan to get out of the morass they do. We're being asked what specific plans are there. For instance, with the Northwest as an example, we have curtailed their ability to commit to new projects without having to finish off on what they do and paying off their historical debts that have accumulated over a number of years. We need to clear that backlog, and this addresses the question of Honorable Mpiti, that what are we doing about the payment of contractors? I think we're beginning to set the cap on the grants as to directing the provinces in terms of what they need to do first in the clearance of the backlog. This is a position supported by the current minister and who directed us to even be more bolder that in some cases we've got to apply an 80-20 principle where 80% is dedicated towards dealing with historical issues and clearing all of that and 20% to new commitments. It's a thing that we are looking at. It's not just straightforward. We have to look at the current commitments of the province, the commitments they have to the current multi-year projects, and how much of the budget then remains for new commitments as well as for dealing with the previous things. So each province, the case is being dealt with on its own merits, including the same with each and every metro. In as far as what Honorable Katamawala Stole raises, indeed the CRUs, we had ring-fenced the funding, and I think it should be understood that the expenditure for this will be seen under the transfers and not necessarily on the departmental budget itself. What you would see from us is the support we are providing to those provinces. So the expenditure itself has got to be expended by the provinces and by the metros. And there has been a championing through this. For instance, Johannesburg, we know for sure that they were the ones who tabled the proposal in the MINMEC that we ring-fence these resources, and which we did. But Johannesburg is one of the few that are actually making hay when the sun is still up in relative to this expenditure on the CRUs. And we have been intervening in this regard and supporting Johannesburg to repurpose their plans to be able to do this, including encouraging them in the lateness of the hour in recognition that they were already halfway and they had not spent a cent on the CRUs. We were already encouraging them to seek to participate in contracts of other spheres and organs of state to be able to do this work very well. The issue of student housing, as you may know, we are responsible for human settlements in totality. We take the responsibility. However, within the arrangements of the executive and government, it has been long decided that student accommodation, primarily largely because of the funding that is led by NSFAS as an entity of higher education, that this be placed under higher education and the universities. We are also looking at the model of the PPPs relative to this, and to also provide private student accommodation in this regard, because the Department of Education is driving student accommodation relative and attached to universities. And relative to this, we think that private student accommodation is the way to go. We know that the NHFC has been given a mandate already to finance this aspect, and they can present a report and brief the committee how far they have gone in the allocations, and we think that we have seen some of the key projects coming forth from their kitty. Secondly, we are also looking at further collaboration in this regard, starting with the Northwest, relative to the NSFAS and HDA interface. And here the HDA has been given a mandate to acquire properties, brownfields, properties within cities, particularly abandoned and disused buildings. And we are also looking at utilization of the current instrument that has been brought into law, the new Expropriation Act, to expropriate in public interest to convert these buildings into student accommodation and to also convert them into rental stock as well as social housing. We accept that there are areas where the TRUs have been there longer than they were anticipated, and we had been doing the audit, but we know, and this is a testament to what we said earlier when we nationalized the emergency housing response program. It is primarily because we were seeing what the honorable members' observations are, and we are also cognizant that the ability of many provinces to transcend beyond the response to the disaster to a permanent solution has been found wanting in many instances. This is not only an issue of money, it's also an issue of capacity and also the issue of planning. And hence our recommendation to the portfolio committee and on the areas we ourselves acknowledge we need to improve on is on the coordination of that planning aspect for provinces and our own ability to force the hands of provinces via the business plans that indeed those business plans are aligned to provision of RDP houses as a permanent solution to beyond the period prescribed for a TRU once a disaster had been struck. Let me also indicate that the issue of Northern Cape, we have ventilated it a lot, Chairperson, in this meeting. And I think what we are seeing all the time is a result of exactly what we said and which we want would happen. We are where we are, but unfortunately, our hands are tied until the Northern Cape is able to pay in full its obligations to the DBSA. Even the Treasury acknowledges this fact that the room for intervention is very, very limited, considering the obligations they themselves have committed themselves with the DBSA in this regard. You would recall that our department was not in support, and we did advise that they do not go this route. But however, they exercised that option correctly, as I've pointed out. The autonomy of these provinces and the ability of their own provincial governments to make their own decisions cannot be unduly and unfairly curtailed in this regard, and we still must respect the decisions that must be taken by the other spheres of government, as long as they are not illegal. And in this case, this was not an illegal; it was a choice that they have made. On the issue of us having to take money from other provinces and reallocate it, we are clear, Chairperson, that we had said, I think this was last year, May, when I did indicate to the portfolio committee that beginning the next financial year, meaning from April this year, our intention, Honorable Mpiti, remains that we should work with the provinces and as well as metros to actually try and help them spend the money within. We are cognizant of the initial allocations and the rationale behind it, including the equitable share formula that takes into account several factors, the population size, levels of development, and various other aspects in this regard, so that money appropriated in that way is cognizant of that. So taking it out of that specific province to another area defeats the very intended purpose originally of the allocation. But not reallocating it is not an option, primarily because then the whole sector will suffer. Because when the totality of the picture is shown and the sector has not spent its money, the Treasury now has options to consider reducing that budget, because it cannot always expend money for human settlements, and human settlements does not spend the money, and then the money goes back to the National Revenue Fund. So in this case, There are pressures across all provinces, and we are cognizant of that. So provinces that do not spend their money, and where our attempts at helping them to spend it in their own provinces fail, we have no choice but to reallocate it where it's needed the most for those that are spending and are at spending that money prior to the end of the financial year, so that the budget integrity for the sector remains intact, and that the budget considerations in terms of the size of the envelope is not impacted negatively because a few amongst us have not done what they were supposed to do. So consequent to that, our commitment remains that effective beginning next year, and you may have seen even with the restructuring of the USDG and Treasury having ring-fenced 56% of that grant, you would see that the metros will sit in a window, and based on their own performance, they can then access more. So this is a much more fairer position because it allows metros to plan accordingly, according to what is guaranteed and what is granted, and that the rest they can get it on a reward-based system that rewards better performance and better spending. And in this regard, naturally, the Treasury has its own authority in terms of the law to be able to do what we are saying, and they are already exercising that, and they have started even this year before the next financial year. In the current financial year, they have invoked the provisions of Section 18, and they are themselves doing the stopping and reallocation. We are in this process supporting the metros to make sure that they are able to spend the money. And we have been sending teams and capacity to help them have better recovery plans so that the Treasury would be convinced that they would be able to spend their money by the end of the financial year of municipalities. On the issue of, and so Honorable Abada, just to reiterate the point that indeed not reallocating the money is not an option, and I think we will face even greater budget cuts if the money is not expended in a financial year. And we are also clear in as far as this matter. You say our target setting is just a checklist. You say it's inefficient. I think we beg to differ with respect, Honorable Member, because we as a national government have our own responsibilities, and those responsibilities are checked and audited, and we perform based on those responsibilities. The provinces and the metros have different responsibilities to those of us. We as the transferring officer do not actually spend the money, and we do not seek to cap provinces and metros from exercising their administrative autonomy to procure on their own, to do things on their own, and so on relative to the frameworks that do exist. So in this regard, in as far as our own target setting is concerned, and in as far as what we are expected to do in following the money in providing oversight, we are doing that. And I think it will be remiss the day Parliament believes that the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement has not done its job, primarily because the department has done something wrong. I think it will be quite remiss and unfortunate. The real test would not be whether or not, the real test would be whether the committee has provided oversight and whether the committee has indeed, when the wrongdoing was done, did it follow through? Did it do what it's supposed to do? And did it exercise its responsibilities as a committee relative to these terms of reference for constitution within Parliament? And I think more or less we are in the same situation relative to provinces and cities. We have our own that we can do, and to also show costs where provinces, for instance, are not spending according to the business plans. Are we exercising the powers that are at our disposal, including the suspension of transfers and all of that? Do we do those things? Do we then send a team to go help the province? Like in the case of Mangaung as a metro, we had stopped the grant and we did not give them the second quarter grant. They were unable. 4 times they submitted to us deficient plans, and we finally sent a team to help them put up the plans that were credible. And once they did, we were able to lift that. We submitted those plans to the Treasury, and the Treasury agreed with us. We then transferred their second quarter grant. So I'm just showing that indeed what we are expected to do, we are doing. So the correlation the honourable member wishes to draw in as far as saying that our achievement of our own targets does not necessarily translate to what the provinces and metros are doing. I think it may be an unfair correlation in the context of what is predetermined and what has already been agreed. And I must also hasten to indicate that what is contained in our APP is tabled before the Portfolio Committee. The Portfolio Committee supports and the National Assembly approves the APP. And once it is in that manner, detailing the things we are going to be assessed on, including the targets that are in there, because this, what we are presenting is nothing new, is what is contained in the approved plans approved by Parliament. And we are simply following through on what we had committed that as national government we would do. It is said that perhaps what provinces commit to and metros, the Portfolio Committee should have a direct line of sight. That part, I don't think it needs us, the National Department. If the committee wishes to go that route, I think there are relations frameworks within Parliament and the provincial legislatures in how that can be achieved, and with the model that the committee wishes us to work through. Would we be in a position to convert reports from quarterly to monthly? I think we can request on a voluntary basis for metros and what to submit, but they know that by law, and particularly the requirements of the PFMA regulations, accounting officers are supposed to report quarterly. They know that, and I think it may be a bridge too far, and I can already imagine those who would raise the issue that a month is too short to implement anything significant and report. So we can try. We are not averse to listening to what the Portfolio Committee is saying. We will raise it in a min-mac, a technical min-mac first, and see what the accounting officers have to say about that. But we work according to the prescripts, and the current prescripts as they are compel us to report on a quarterly basis and not monthly. There are things we are supposed to report on the past system on a monthly basis, and that we already see and we're already tracking. Even the Treasury itself is looking at those figures on a monthly basis because they are on the system. But for the comprehensive plans and reporting on performance and all of that, we are being compelled to report on a quarterly basis. And Honorable Abada, perhaps the committee would advise us further what additionally is being required, because we are already reporting quarterly on finances as well as on performance to the Parliament, and in line with already the parliamentary approved template that all departments report on. If anything at all that the committee may want us to report on, we have always welcomed to come and make those specific presentations outside of the format we are using, and we will not be averse when advised so by the chair and the secretariat to be able to report in this regard. And I think the same goes for what Honorable Gameda has raised relative to this matter, and also to the long-term impact of performance in this regard, as well as what measures are we taking to address budget inefficiencies and to cap future under expenditure. I think we did cover on that. And just to address what Honorable Poole raises, what he perceives as an unfair allocation criterion, where 74% with the expenditure of 74% is being allocated money taken from a person with a 75% expenditure. Those numbers are indicative as we see them, and once we look at the plans of each province, we ask all of them that are not above the 80 mark to say, show us what you are going to do. We do the analysis of that. Others are able to show us immediately that, for instance, They've just contracted and the contractor has just reached a foundation stage. By the time we would have looked at the numbers and by the time they show us this, they are almost ready for invoicing. And we then see that once the invoice come, they would be able to spend the money. But we also look even at those that we take from, whether indeed should we be taking, do they have plans to cap this situation and to spend the money without us taking from them. And once they are able to demonstrate that, we do not take. But if they fail to demonstrate that they will be able to spend it, then we will take it even if they were at 75 vis-a-vis the one who was at 74. If the one who was at 74 will show us that if you give me the money, I will go to 94% and I'll be able to spend it immediately. And the one at 75 will only be able to move like to 79 and he would not be able to even breach the 80 gap. Then we have to consider strongly at the reallocation in this regard. And I think that's why as a safety mechanism and as a quality assurance mechanism, we also have the Treasury do its own independent run on numbers. And even in this case, you can see that they agreed with totally with those provinces, and their statement was most telling that indeed their assessment, having done the run on the numbers, is that those provinces would not, even given the plans that the Treasury has sourced, they would not be able to spend that money given the remaining timelines. And equally, the Treasury does disagree with us on some things. And like as the case with Northern Cape, we had felt very bad that they have received so little out of their own doing. And we had wanted to make up for those shortfalls as honorable members are raising. And we allocated money to them. But when the Treasury did its own numbers, it did not agree with us on the reallocation to Northern Cape, citing a number of issues, including their own numbers and their own spending pattern, and said we should reconsider allocating to other provinces. And we have since done that consideration, and we are seeking now their concurrence. We believe they are doing their numbers on the provinces we are seeking to reallocate that money to, and they would give us their feedback given the remaining period. Honorable Mpiti, you have raised, okay, let me just, with Honorable Pool, deal with the matter of the NHBRC invoices, so I don't have to come back to it. The invoices, yes, they are for the NHBRC. We think that they should not be taking larger batches like they do. They seek to want to do assessment of 1,000 houses first before they invoice for it. We think that they must do it in smaller batches and invoice regularly than the current model they are facing, because it pushes us right to the edge, and all of a sudden at the end they dump us with a big invoice and we have to settle it there and there. So this has been ongoing like that. We have engaged them in this regard. They also point out to the fact that the houses are being built all over and they are required to do the reconciliations with everybody right away, so that right across their own regions, they can verify the information being brought and so on. But yes, we have a commitment with them to improve on the system, and we think that the solution going forward would be invoicing in smaller batch. It simply means a lot more transactions for us if we do it that way. And we also said that they could do it with a cluster of regions and then a totally picture of a national invoice. And to that extent, we are continuing with the process of the engagement to improve upon this matter. So that matter, yes, is being given attention. We will not wait in vain and forever. And we also see that it is impacting on our spending patterns, and therefore we will seek to improve on that. Honorable Mpiti, the expenditure you referred to about travel, our response really is that all of it has been expended in compliance with the prescripts. There's nowhere where we have done anything that is not already regulated and that has not been provided for. And in effect, there's nowhere where we have not budgeted for it or not moved any money elsewhere for other things intended for purposes of this. is as per the approved budget that has been approved by Parliament. And as it is, it has been expanded, like I say, in line with the prescripts as it is. And we will also eagerly await the audit to come and pass and to see if indeed anything is untoward relative to this. But our internal audit has already done a run on this part, and we have not seen any adverse findings relative to the expenditure concerned. On the payment of contractors, I've spoken about this matter. It's relative to long-standing things and I've already indicated what the minister has directed us to do. But we shouldn't forget, and I think the responsibility of Parliament as well as of the committee relative to this matter is also important for you to help us. Where there are in-year budget cuts that are approved by Parliament, inadvertently, they would affect contracts that were multi-year in nature, and they will also affect commitments that we had already made to contractors, and where budgets are reduced in year that we had not planned for, and with consistent budget cuts year on year. This is inadvertent, and this has been the problem. So the solution we are proffering and putting forth to say we will simply not do new contracts and focus on eradicating the backlog is the right one. But it is also impactful negatively to those who are on the waiting list, because it simply means they will wait even longer to be able to get their houses if no new projects are coming up linked to them to get access to that. And I think that is where the challenge relative to this is there. But yes, if you want to know our strategy, it's as I have outlined, and the minister has now set quite an ambitious target for us of an 80-20 split, and it is what we will explore as I have already outlined and indicated. On the issue of the reallocation of funds, I think I've dealt with this one. And on the title deeds matter, why are we having such a slow pace? I think we started, the title deeds are a mixed bag because the situation of our country and our history is very known, particularly in the housing space. And with Group Areas Act, with the pre-94 stock, some of it from the former homelands and some of it from the so-called independent states of Botswana, Transkei, Ciskei, and Venda. And we also know the challenges we have dealt with till now. We know the issues of new warehousing, Khayelitsha, and what all of the initial government intervention schemes and how these have never really been mopped up. And even when the Treasury did decide to sell the stock, what in essence it had meant. I now need to indicate that the easier title deeds to deal with, particularly those that came out of the land reform process, those that were government purchased land for beneficiaries, and those that came out of tribunals and so on. Those title deeds have all been handed over. And also where settlements have been reached, those have been dealt with. What we are remaining with in the backlog are the most complex and most difficult title deeds. And this speaks to where townships have never been declared. In townships like Hammanskraal, Temba, and other areas, you know very well that the township register does not include these townships, but yet they are there. And added to this, Spluma now wants certain things to be in place before a municipality can easily declare a township. And there are also even irritations in other municipal bylaws, where because the municipality or the township simply doesn't have street lights, then it can't be declared a township, and therefore inadvertently no title deeds can be issued. Earlier I spoke in brief just to say we will be engaging all municipalities on a special dispensation and all of this so that all issues that have got to do with declaration of a township, save for those that have got to do with the safety of human life and limb, that those can be circumvented. But every other ones that are stopping the release of the townships, that a special dispensation be issued so that this can be issued. The minister has already returned to the Minister of COGTA, wherein we are asking for exemptions from certain provisions of Spluma to allow for this to happen. Because in reality, what the Spluma had intended to protect has been defeated by purpose because people are already staying there, and some families have been staying there in excess of 50 years and so on. We should just give them their title deeds once the townships have been declared, and it's work we are doing relative to this. And of course, we must accept there are some of the delays that are just government. For instance, there is absolutely no reason why the Northwest Housing Corporation continue to insist on selling the houses from the former Botswana stock instead of handing over those parcels of land to government and to the cross-border provinces of Northern Cape, Free State, as well as Gauteng, for them to be declared in these provinces so that indeed title deeds can be issued to people. So we are engaging continuously. We have now moved to a stage where I have informed the HOD of the Northwest that it will affect the future grants if they do not move speedily towards the transfer of those land parcels, and that going forward we'll put it as a condition of transfer before we give them the grant. In as far as poorly housing built houses, we take the cognizance of this, and we have since improved significantly on our work in both getting the NHBRC to guarantee work at all of these new houses we are building. But what we have is before we instituted this scheme and prior, and as you may know, the Treasury had previously given us 2 windows for a rectification program, which was funded. Rectification does work, but obviously what it in essence means is that the state is paying twice. It pays first for the building of a house that is then proven to be defective and then comes back and pay for its fixing, which is what was a problem with inherently with the rectification program, because the solution, real one, is where you prevent poorly built houses from being erected in the first place, and that means regular checks, and where that have failed, where some engineer has certified the house but it's found to be defective, that indeed there is recourse, and the recourse has been that those engineers and everybody have got to be registered with the NHBRC. They must pay their deposits, they must pay their insurances to the NHBRC, and where defective houses are found, that their insurance.
Hello, Chair.
We lost the DG.
I'll check, Chairperson, and revert back. Probably network.
Okay. Okay, I see is back. DG.
My apologies, Chair. My battery just died on me. I'm sorry, but I have logged on my phone. I hope I'm still audible well. And Chair, I was now raising the matter relative to how poorly built houses, and I was saying that we now use the mechanism of the NHBRC to guarantee that there is recourse when this has happened, so that for those who build these houses poorly, their insurances as well as their deposit could be forfeited, and that the NHBRC could come through for the beneficiaries when this has happened. Inadvertently, this has added a layer to the process, and that's why it takes a bit longer. But we agree with the wisdom Honorable Mpiti is putting forth and the demand for this recourse. Of course, we still have the houses that were not guaranteed and which were pre the scheme with NHBRC, and in this regard, those we are still struggling with, and we continuously lobby the Treasury around the consideration of yet another window for the rectification program. On emergency housing fund, what processes are there? We respond in terms of the framework. Within 48 hours after the disaster having happened, we are already on the ground. We recognize the delineation of responsibilities. that the cities themselves are responsible for beneficiary identification and for authentication that these beneficiaries indeed are their residents, indeed that they have lost their houses or that their houses have been impacted by the disaster. And once we have that beneficiary list, we then respond to the housing needs based on that beneficiary list and requirements. So these are the processes as outlined in the emergency housing response framework. And that framework does provide for this. And in this regard, we believe that all municipalities and provinces are quite au fait and clear about this and their responsibilities. And we have even sent teams to help municipalities finalize on beneficiary management and identification processes as early as possible. And in this regard, typically we expect this thing to be given to us in the first day so that those that are impacted can then be given temporary emergency accommodation. And we have been in that situation where we have been providing same in this regard. May I also just address the issue that has been raised relative to our poor spending? I think we have indicated where our poor spending is at and what mitigation measures we have for each and every one of those areas. It is Honorable Sithole who is asking whether indeed our intent is to spend all of this money in the last quarter, and a sentiment that has been echoed by Honorable Poole to say, would we have the capacity and do we have the means to actually spend this money? We think, yes, with what we have presented before you, and that is why upfront when we spoke, I did indicate that the minister had interrogated our plans and had looked at whether indeed we would be in a position to push the expenditure needle. One must also indicate one thing.
Yeah,
we can spend.
What I'm going to tell you, you know your nearest budget today.
That's not me speaking, Chairperson, I can guarantee you.
Hello, Pasha, can you mute? Continue, DG.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And as I was indicating, is that we may spend, Chair, and we may spend recklessly, and that is much a bigger sin than under expenditure. Like as is the case with the TRU expenditure. We had and I think the bulk of what you see there is for the TRUs that are required in the Eastern Cape. Had we gone ahead and spent all of that money on those contractors that the Eastern Cape, we believe, had not appointed appropriately, we would have been left with a huge irregular expenditure, something the committee would have frowned upon, something would have been quite terrible. And here, accountability versus service delivery has got to be balanced, and that responsible spending as well as accountability must always be there, even when there is a disaster. And I think even in the case of the COVID-19, materials that were bought during that time and the investigation of the SIU, you may have seen repeatedly what the tribunal say. That the fact that you have a disaster does not say you must flaunt processes and you must not follow your prescripts and processes. And as a result of this, there has been inordinate delays relative to this matter. And we had thought it would have aided and helped us to address a matter quickly. And we were left now with contractors that are quite slow. They are unable to move speedily. We have had to cancel some of the contract, reissue new orders. There has been a lot, but we had been responsible so that we do not end up with irregular expenditure and huge instances of unaccountability. And to that extent, we are quite clear and au fait that we will do what is necessary to spend the money, but to spend it responsibly and to spend it in line with prescripts. I will be the first one to refuse to spend, no matter the pressure, if I know that we will not be able to account in the manner that we are spending. And I think that it is a balancing issue that as an administrator one has got to deal with, more so these days as an accounting officer, the provision of the Public Auditing Act that may actually warrant that the AG take action to recover the money personally from me and my family. I think I have a responsibility both to the would-be beneficiaries, but also to the system to make sure that we are actually remain accountable. And therefore, we will spend according to those spending plans that we have tabled. I think on each matter, we had indicated what we want to do. We have been asked, and I'll use only one example, Chair, about the UN Habitat Office, or exactly what is the problem and why are we not spending the money that Treasury gave us. We have an agreement. These things, because of the nature of what the UN Habitat is, they require through their own UN processes, but South African law also require us for domestication of certain things, our own other processes with DERCO and presidency, including presidential minutes and all processes, and that the agreement be pre-certified. So we had hoped that we would be done with the process with DERCO, but then we were told that after they got their own internal legal opinion on what the office will do and how it will, that those officials that will be stationed in that office would also have to to meet the requirements of being extended privileges in terms of the Vienna Convention. And to that extent, there were specific processes that needed to be followed relative to that, and also with exchange of the embassies, particularly one in Geneva where the Habitat is stationed, and in this regard to also do the work relative to the formal domestication. That had taken inordinate process. We had hoped we will have paid by January and that we would be done. But we have been doing everything in our power with DERCO to make sure that we finish on time and that before the end of the financial year, we have actually paid UN Habitat and that the country office can then be established thereafter. There are other parts of it which were smaller that we could pay on. And as you may see, those parts we are done and we have already expended some little money. I think in totality it was 25. We are left with 19 to pay for the actual establishment of the country office. And I think we are still confident we would be able to expend the money before the end of the financial year. So I'll leave it at that, Honorable Chair, unless members would want to raise any other thing. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Honorable members, are there follow-ups? I have 10 minutes that I can allocate to follow-ups, if any, or if you feel your question was not answered, let's look at that. I see only 2 hands. Honorable Kerakilwe, followed by Honorable Sithole, followed by Honorable Mpiti. Honorable Kerakilwe, you are on the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, DG, for the responses. Mine is not a follow-up, but something has just came into my mind with regard to the COE. I just want to check with DG, through you, Chair, as to how far are they with the finalization of their organizational structure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. First of all, I want to thank the DG for his answers. But only one item, Honorable Chairperson, that I'm trying to check with you and the DG. The issue of informal settlement. Because I know that there is a lot of money that has been budgeted for informal settlement. But the informal settlement are mushrooming, Honorable Chairperson. They are growing in numbers. Some of them are they are growing inside the informal settlement. You see, if you have informal settlement, then inside the informal settlement, they are busy actually building some more informal settlement within the informal settlement. Is anything that the national can help to monitor working with the province and the municipalities to monitor the growing of the informal settlement? Because there is a ticking bomb. It's going to give us a lot of, because even now, if it is raining, the more affected people are from informal settlement. I just asking Honorable Chairperson if the DG can actually pay attention on that one. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mpiti.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, mine is not a follow-up question, but just maybe a comment to say that, the point really around the travel really is about the sense of, for a lack of a better term, reckless spending. I mean, one cannot be able to justify the spending of hundreds of thousands of rands on accommodation. Why are officials not being able to choose cheaper hotels? Why must people stay at luxury hotels? DG, the point is not to say that there are processes in which that were not followed. The point is to say that as the DG, it must be condemned the fact that people are staying in hotels that go far beyond the need of the taxpayers' money. That is the point. We cannot sit here and agree to say that people must be staying at hotels when there's cheaper hotels that are affordable. So for me, that is reckless spending. And I think it must be called that. And it must be discouraged going into the future, that people cannot simply be using the taxpayers' money the way that they want. It cannot be. And I think it's unfortunate that the former minister is not here, because she herself is the one who is at the center of this particular point that I'm raising. It really is unfortunate. But I'm saying in future, DG, please, we must ensure that not so much money is spent for people to stay at luxury hotels when there are better options. Let us be frugal with our money and make sure that we are really focusing on what we needed to focus on. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mpiti. DG.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Just to answer directly to Honorable Khakilwe, our organizational structure, the first part of it is done, which was the macro structure. And we have now tabled that macro structure to the Minister for her consideration. And the Minister had asked that we allow for, once the MTDP has been finalized, and we also look at the targets that will set in the strategic plan, and that the structure then, the macro structure, be aligned to that. We have finished with that work yesterday. We think that going forward, it will be considered, and we'll get the wisdom of the Honorable the Minister how to work around that. And once we are there, we will then, once she approves the macro structure for us, we will then start the arduous task of the micro structure. We have consulted with unions, and the Departmental Bargaining Chamber is busy with the processes relative to that, and we are waiting for the Minister's directive relative to this. And since we finished yesterday, we think the process may now begin to move speedily towards finalization. But what is important for us to budget appropriately and to structure appropriately is the macro structure. Then the micro is our business that we can work with internally. We would still need, beyond the Minister and the unions, to have the approval by DPSA. And once that has been achieved, I think all will now fall into place in terms of our planning process relative to the COE. In as far as the issue of the mushrooming of informal settlements, Honorable Sithole, your observation is apt. It actually cost us much more in terms of planning and in terms of responsibility to actually allow informal settlements to spring up without stopping illegal invasions of land. The courts have been very, very clear that once we allow people to settle on an area for 48 hours, then we can't remove them without offering them alternative accommodation, and that we are then obligated to give them basic services such as water, sanitation, and related aspects. And that then speaks to immediately recognizing the informal settlement, that it does exist and that it has to be budgeted and be provided for. What we find is that we national government are not in a position to go to court and stop anyone from invading land illegally. This is a function that must be performed at a municipal level, and we find that the municipalities, some of them, Honorable Sithole, are so dysfunctional that they are not able to even seek a court order to stop people from invading a piece of land and therefore raising extraordinary obligations that will have to follow from national. But we also know that in some instances there has been councillors that have actively been encouraging people to settle with the viewpoint of saying that national government will come and deliver the services to them. And I think it's a mixed bag, but yes, we agree with you. What are we doing about this matter? We have, for instance, in the ISUPG, granted a portion, and we have Treasury has given the latitude and administrative discretion that we could assist metros to actually apply and stop illegal invasions. And we had already exercised the same option previously with Mangaung, where people in a place called Loria Park had attempted to do this, and Mangaung could then step up quickly to be able to respond, and we had been in support of those initiatives. But over and above that, we have now tasked the HDA to develop an instrument and tool for us on geomapping of the areas. We have begun geomapping almost all of the existing informal settlements. We check this on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, to see whether they are expanding and what is happening. And we are now able, even on the system, to pull the polygons to measure the size of these informal settlements as well as the number of households in them. And this technology, we seek to take it even further as a early warning system for us going forward, that it should be able to advise us when a piece of land is being invaded or settled upon. And within the 48-hour period, we should be able to advise the municipality concerned on what it needs to do. But we do agree with you, and we have also seen the same, that the disasters do impact informal settlements much more than formalized settlements. And I think it's a number of things, because most pieces of land that have been left vacant are either wetlands or where the slope doesn't really allow proper human habitation, or where the flow of water is what it is. And therefore, people then naturally invade this would be available land parcels, only to find that they are not fit for human habitation. And from a geotech point of view, we are not able to declare them formal areas for human settlements. So yes, we agree that the prevention of the mushrooming here is very key, and this speaks to the ability and capacity of the municipalities to be much more responsive. Honorable Mpiti, I think the sentiment you are raising about the need to be prudent in expenditure is understood, and it's what philosophy the Treasury and everybody advocates, and that we also live by. And it's a philosophy we have long embraced. And there are cost containment measures the Treasury has put in place, and which also even sets limit and caps to this regard. And when I responded by saying the expenditure is in compliance with the prescripts, I wasn't in any way being dismissive of the sentiment you are raising, but simply to point out that it was within the accepted and approved limits already set, and that nothing on it was untoward, and therefore I would doubt that it will fit the definition of reckless spending as you attribute to it. And we as a department would not agree that we have recklessly spent that. We have spent in line with the prescripts, and that is why my initial answer was to say that all the expenditure was incurred in line with the prescripts relative to this matter, and that it was properly budgeted for and it was appropriated for by Parliament for exactly this purpose for which it has been spent on. And to that extent, that is why I said that we will await the audit outcomes to see if indeed after audit the AG will find anything untoward about this expenditure, because if indeed it's reckless spending, the AG will point out to that fact. And if indeed it is spending outside of any of the prescripts, including the set limits, it will point out to that. If it is unauthorized spending because the budget incurred here was not what it was intended for, it will also say that. And I think that that is why I left it at that point to say, with the concerns raised, we will await the outcome of the audit process to see whether indeed there's anything untoward about what we say. But from what we have done and what we have looked at, we do not believe that it is reckless spending as the Honourable Member wishes to attribute it to be as such. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, DG. Honorable Kerakile, is it a new hand?
It's a new hand, but it's not a question, it's just a comment with regard to this accommodation of the minister. But truly speaking, and through you, Chair, let me thank the DG for thoroughly explaining the procedure to us. We are now pointing our fingers at the minister. Well, it's not the minister who decided that I'm going to sleep in this hotel. And I will never agree with Honorable Member Mpiti saying that minister could have gone to a cheaper accommodation. Even with us as members, we will never agree to sleep in cheaper accommodations. But what is happening, let us look at what is happening with us. The Secretariat and the administration, they will look for a better accommodation suitable for us. And we've never asked as to what is the cost, because that is none of our business. So the issue of the cost, it is also none of the business of the minister. And I really believe that the officials will never exceed the expected or the limited amount to be paid, especially on accommodation. That is all that I wanted to say, Chair, that we really need to stop pointing fingers. We must first look at what is happening with us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kerakile. I was going to say, maybe to bring the issue to finality. If Honorable Mpiti was to present details to the chairperson's office of what he deems to be an overly expensive accommodation, so that we don't go in circles, we're able to point at an issue and we're able to bring it to finality. I'm not sure whether you are able to do that, Honorable Mpiti, so that we can send it to the department and say, this is what the member is worried about, and they will explain, and we bring the matter to finality. And thanks very much, DG and your team and members for your questions and recommendations, your inputs. I think at some stage, the issue of title deeds, DG, I think your officials can do their work, check with the provinces. At some stage, we might need a detailed report on progress with regard to title deeds. Remember, the department has adopted what we call Title Deeds Friday, which means every Friday there's something happening. And there's a backlog that was reported, but also there was a report that showed that there's progress in addressing that backlog. Issue of title deeds is a sensitive issue. It's about the dignity of our people. Maybe at some stage we don't have the exact date now, but at some stage, if you can start, your team can start working on collating information from provinces with regard to title deeds, so that we see how far can we go. I got a report that there is a best CRU project in Northwest, and even the MINMEC last year visited that project because it's a model project we can look up to. I would want us to put it in. Maybe the DG will confirm whether it's true, but I wanted to put it, Secretary, to put it as part when we visit Northwest, if we can via this project and see what it looks like, because it seems to be the best. And if it's the best, we want everybody to learn from this project. I think it is in Bujanala district. I'm not sure about the exact location. We can look at that. On the issue of organizational structure, DG, I think committee would just want to be briefed about the top structure. If you are done with the top structure, the minister is fine, then you can just brief the committee. We won't change anything, but we just want to know how are you restructured, so that we know as we move on how to interact with you in that new structure. I'm not sure whether it's not possible, and this is a sort of a question. When you do new allocations to provinces, you consider their spending now, you consider their capacity to spend, you consider the money you have taken away, and so on and so on. Because if you continue allocating the same, you'll continue being tempted to take away, so that the sector is not punished by Treasury. So if yesterday you have allocated me 50 million, I only managed to spend 25 million for the whole year, why do you still need to allocate me 50 million? Why don't you allocate me 25 million, maybe plus 10%, and so on and so on? I'm just asking whether that is possible. Secondly, if we can get a report about the accredited municipalities, not metros. There are these other accredited municipalities like Polokwane municipality and other cities, Buffalo City, if I'm not wrong, which are accredited to deal with the issue of BNGs subject to correction. If that is true, if we can get a briefing about that, which municipalities are those and how do you interact with them? Have you started allocating funds to them to be able to deal with this project, or what? Maybe it's a report that in future we will need. But on the issue of allocation, maybe if you can just comment there, and then we take it from there. DG?
Chair, the national already considers all these elements when it does new allocations and the indicative allocations, and they do communicate them to us. Unfortunately, in terms of the processes, the Money Bills and related Matters Act gives them a very limited window. We are given like 5 days which to analyze the indicative allocations and make representations. It's always very difficult to do all the schedules for the 9 provinces and metros to then respond within that time whether the indicative allocations are agreeable or not. But all the time, the point is that Treasury would have applied its mind on a longer period, having looked at all of those. And I think many instances we have never really disagreed with what they had put forth as indicative allocation, more so because of the integrity of the budget process. Veering off the equitable share formula is not necessarily encouraged. What is seen as anomalies in the system are actually addressed via conditional grants. And in this regard, the grants themselves were always considered to be supplementary, but we know in terms of our arrangements that they had somewhat become primary drivers of delivery of our system. So in essence, yes, Chair, the consideration has already been made prior to the allocation being made, and we take historical expenditure patterns as well as other considerations within the framework of the equitable share formula. The other matter you are raising about the CRU, yes, indeed, Chair, there are pockets of excellence in respect of these programs, and that's the point I was trying to make to Honorable Sithole. But he did reference Johannesburg, and that's why I zoomed into Johannesburg per se, but just to indicate that, yes, the success I was talking about, saying after we ring-fenced money for this purpose, some provinces, particularly 5 of them, began moving in addressing some of these long-standing matters and in addressing this. We also have somewhat of a challenge relative just there, Chair, of approach. There are some people or when consultations with some residents of the hostels that do not want the family units and wishes to retain the character of the hostel as it is, meaning they simply want an upgrade of what exists and what pertains. And that defeats the very notion of what was originally intended with the CRU policy and process of converting the hostels to family units. So given all those considerations, yes, there are pockets of excellence, and there are where there are delays relative to these challenges I'm pointing out to. The last part, Chair, we will indeed share the structure. We are obligated in any event to present it to you as part of the APP. Whenever we table it before you, it has to come with that in how we are structured and how we look and what is the split between the cost of employment as well as our goods and services budget, and also different economic classifications. But nevertheless, we will, once Minister applies her mind and once it has been approved, and if she grants us permission to deliver it earlier than is scheduled in terms of the tabling of the APP, we would also do so, Chairperson. We don't think that there should be any challenge on our part to do so. Thank you.
Thanks very much, honorable members. I think that is the end of the item. What's the next item, Secretary?
That is the only item we have, Chairperson, for today.
Okay. Thanks very much. I want to thank you, DG, with your delegation, honorable members, for taking your time and attend to this meeting. The ministerial staff, support staff, the support staff to the DG, support staff to portfolio committee. Thanks very much. I think we're business-like. It's now 10 to 12, and we're done with the business of the meeting. The meeting standard.
Just joined the meeting, Chair.
Chair?
Oh,
Chair.
just joined. He's in Lesotho. Is there an announcement?
Yes, Chair. Kuliswa had something to brief you about.
In this meeting or outside?
Can I see Mr. Ditebe join now?
Oh, good morning, Mr. Ditebe. Hope you are enjoying your stay in Lesotho. But we are done with the meeting. Honorable Ditebe.
Chairperson, good afternoon, morning. This area is quite mountainous. Morning to you and everybody. I only got internet connection now, but our meeting has already started as well, water and sanitation. So as we build in settlements, we're trying to bring water to South Africa as well. 750 billion liters of water per year. So that's quite a lot. So we cannot just keep on building settlements without certainty of water or reliability of water. But I appreciate the comment, Chair. I only came in at the tail end.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying I only came through at the tail end. Yes, we are here seeing to the Budihadi Dam, which is part of the Katse Reservoir, providing 750 billion liters of water to South Africa per annum. Sorry, it is not part of the agenda, but I thought I should just take a small break and say that I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. Do your work for the sake of us, citizens of South Africa. Thanks very much, everybody. Like I did, the meeting stand adjourned.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Thanks, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.